Some of the Falcons' pre draft visits have come out, and I want to talk about it on today's episode because two in particular jump out to me as what is going on in Atlanta. And I'm not even going like full conspiracy mode or anything like that because these are hard, cold facts, right? This is pre draft visits. So we're going to look at that on today's episode. Really quick, help us reach 35,000 subscribers before the NFL draft kicks off. I need a little over 500 of you watching who have not subscribed to go ahead and make the best decision in your life. If you're married, that's going to become the second best day of your life. Day number one, when you subscribe to Falcons Today. So let's run through some of the pre-draft visits. I'll start off with guys who are in real contention for pick number 15, and then we'll look at my, I don't want to call it like Windhorse meme moment, but a red flag being raised moment. So some pre-draft visits going on here. You've got James Pearce from Tennessee, Shemar Stewart, two defensive ends, Will Johnson and Nick Emmanwori, a pair of DBs. I think all these guys are being looked at as plan B if Mike Green does not reach pick number 15. I remember when we did our Mike Green video back in January, and I had to do I spent a weekend watching Marshall film, and that was a conversation I had to have with my fiance as to why I was not paying attention to her, but the Thundering Herd instead. And next thing I know, Mike Green is the talk of the town, and he might not even fall to Atlanta at 15. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bears at 10 take Green because Ashton Genty goes to the Raiders at 6. So let's just say Green is off the board. What's the next plan for the Falcons? Here would be my preference for those four guys. You know that I've had an affinity for Will Johnson. Is DB the biggest need for this team? No, it is not. It is edge rusher without a doubt. Do I believe Johnson is going to be looked back at as a perennial Pro Bowl pick that should have gone way earlier? Yes, I do. He missed a good chunk of 2024, but 2023 was the year he really put himself on the map. 8 pass breakups, 4 interceptions. Sprinkle in just casually 3 pick sixes in the last 2 seasons for the Wolverines, and there's so much to like about him. He's had some injury concerns. He had a turf toe injury in 2024. He did not run at the Combine or at Michigan's Pro Day due to a hamstring injury, which raised some flags about his long speed. But apparently at some of the recent draft visits, he has been able to run for teams. So if he was able to run for the Falcons and they don't have any qualms with that top-end speed to make sure he can keep up with speedy receivers on pure go routes, I've got no problem with taking Johnson at pick 15. The next guy on my preference list would be James Pearce, my own Tennessee Volunteer. This is me kind of like pulling back on my own bias because I'm not putting him at number 1. There is plenty to like about Pearce, coming off a 7.5 sack season when people thought he could be the first overall pick going into this year's draft after last year's draft. Obviously, he did not quite live up to those expectations, but he's still going to be a round 1 guy for me. Here's kind of the pro and con wrap up with Pearce. Pro, he's an incredible athlete who dominates with speed. He gets into the backfield, and he is just a catalyst. Con, speed does not translate necessarily the best from college to the NFL at defensive end. The reason being is I kind of compare it to if you're a middle schooler, let's say you're an 8th grader and you're playing with your 6th grade younger brother's friends. You're bigger, you're faster, you're stronger, you're going to beat up on them, right? When you get to high school and you play with your own, age group, it won't be the same because you're not faster than anyone else anymore. In college, if you're fast as a defensive end and that is how you make up 90% of your production, you're in for a rude awakening in the NFL when you find out, oh, these offensive tackles are fast. Because they weren't fast when I played the School of Deaf and Blind, or they weren't fast when I played Arkansas, although that night they were for James Pearce. So that is the one hiccup. Whereas strength, if you're strong, that's not going to go that's not going to disappear when you get to the next level. If you've got strength, you can still push people over. Speed, if that's what you rely on, it's going to be a little bit, the margins of speed, slim down in the NFL compared to college football. So between these top 2 guys, who would you select? For me, it's Will Johnson. Does it fix the pass rushing issues? No, it does not. Does it put together the best trio potentially in just as quickly as a year or 2 in the secondary? between Johnson, Terrell, and Bates. Talk about an absolute, like, Hartsfield-Jackson no-fly zone at the bends. Yes, it does. So I would take Johnson. Now, I do want to get to the what is going on in Atlanta part, but first I do have to give a quick shout out to our friends over at Factor. Ready to optimize your nutrition this year? Factor has chef-made gourmet meals that make eating well easy. They are dietitian approved and ready to heat and eat in 2 minutes, so you can fuel up right and feel great no matter what life throws at you. Lose up to 8 pounds in 8 weeks with Factor's keto meals. They've got so many awesome things going on right now. So if you are trying to save time and spend some more time outdoors and not in the kitchen and things like that with the great weather we have coming our way, check out Factor. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/FalconsChat50off and use code FalconsChat50off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code FalconsChat50off at factormeals.com/FalconsChat50off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Because I love you guys, I put all that information in the comments. That Texas cheddar burger looks delicious, by the way, on screen. I put all that information for you guys in the comments and description of today's video. Although on my diet, I'm having the tofu. So let's get to my what is going on in Atlanta. Pre-draft visits are usually a good indication as to what a team would like to do in the draft. Not necessarily just round one, but throughout all 7 rounds. But when I see the Falcons bring not one, but 2 offensive tackles in, alarm bells go off for me, especially when those 2 guys are projected to go between rounds 1 and 3. And Atlanta does not have a 3rd-round pick. I don't believe they would be eyeing one of these 2 guys with pick number 15. But I'm old enough to remember last year when I did not believe they would take Michael Penix at pick number 8. So nothing is off the table. For anyone wondering, hey, what could be the random pick Terry Fontenot and the Falcons do this year? It might be an offensive tackle, which surface level screams horrible idea. And I get that. This defense desperately needs help. It arguably got worse in the offseason. I mean, they downgraded at some of the moves they made. I think swapping Judon out for Floyd was an upgrade, but I mean, Simmons for the DB they got from Carolina, I think that's a downgrade right there. They didn't make any major splash acquisitions to make up for Grady Jarrett leaving. So defense is priority number 1. But that's why I just say surface level. Because I think if you dig a little bit deeper, not to be a Terry Fontenot, stan, it's not the worst idea in the world to go out and support your young quarterback by finding a new right tackle, I would assume. They just gave Jake Matthews a contract extension. Caleb McGarry is entering the final year of his deal. So if they feel that this is a good offensive tackle class, which, spoiler, it's not, I could understand to a degree the rationale behind a pick like this. I don't believe this would be a round 1 pick. I think they would be looking at these guys in round 2, but I'm still not really on board. Here's the Conerly kind of breakdown. He was a big-time recruit. He's from Seattle, went to Oregon, and 2-year starter at left tackle. There is still some work in progress with him. If you're wondering where you might know this name from, remember in January when Mike Green at the Senior Bowl bull rushed an offensive lineman and the clip, we put it on the show, went viral? This is who he bull rushed. Now, in Conerly's defense, those drills are designed to make the defensive player look better because no offensive lineman is ever one-on-one with the player. Like, he's got 3 to 4 guys to his left or right who he can kind of bump that defensive player into to bring in a little bit of support. When there's no one else next to you, it's not really a pure game situation. So I can see the rationale behind an offensive lineman. I don't think this is the draft class to do it, though. Now, the other player they brought in is a much more intriguing prospect. It is William and Mary's Charles Grant. He is a work in process. He is a rough project that still has a lot of sandpaper needed. 6'4", 309 pounds. He did not start playing football until the junior year of his high school career. He was a wrestler before that, which, talk to any high school football coach, they love getting wrestlers on their team. 0-star recruit, goes to William & Mary, plays 5 years there, redshirts year 1, and then he becomes a 3.5-year starter. Now, there is a lot of great film work to like here, and production too. He gave up, I think, just 1 hit this entire 2024 season for, what is William & Mary? The Colonia? I don't know what they are, actually. The Tribe? That feels like a new name for them. I feel like they had to change that name. Someone do some research on me. I doubt William & Mary settled that school in 1700 and go, we're going to be the Tribe. It says Tribe, but I think that's a new name. Anywho, back to this. So, Charles Grant. If you put the tape on and you look over the athleticism, there's plenty to like. He played at William & Mary. People are going to be skeptical of the level of competition and what happens when he goes up against real NFL-worthy defensive linemen. At the Senior Bowl, I think he was there. He did not drown or anything like that, so I can be semi-optimistic here. But if you're wondering, Petey, what's your stance on going with an offensive tackle in round 2? My answer is no. My answer is no for 2 reasons. One, it's not a very good tackle class. So I feel like you're reaching on a position that's highly valued, but there are better players that could suit your needs at that spot more. That's part 1. Part 2, you still have Caleb McGarry under contract for this upcoming season. I don't think it's the worst idea in the world to see how he fares as a blindside tackle for Penix. If he can adjust well to be more of a pass protector first and run blocker second, then you don't have to use a premium pick on an offensive tackle. If he drowns and it does not go well, then we all know what priority number 1 is probably going to be in next year's draft. But because it's not a very good tackle class, you don't have a ton of picks, and you still have a right tackle under contract, that triangle right there, to me, shoots down the idea of taking one of these 2 players. So how upset would you be if Terry Fontenot goes offensive line in the first 2 rounds of the draft? Scale 1 to 10, 10 going to be like you'll never watch a game this year. 1 being you are Terry Fontenot, so of course you love the idea. Terry, I'm sure you're watching. I would put it at a 7. Put it at a 7. I'd be lying if I said I was not going to watch a game this season, but yeah, I'd be pretty upset. Some other pre-draft visits, and I'll also add, this is always a fluid list, so guys get added. Plus, if you are in, which none of these players are here, in the local area, it does not count against your 30 allotted pre-draft visits, so you can bring as many like UGA players in as you'd like, which no Michael Williams visit, right? So that's kind of intriguing. Of these names right here, I think a lot of these guys are day 3, borderline UDFAs, so it just gives Atlanta a head start on, hey, who do we want to sign when the draft is over? The biggest name I'd say, though, is TJ Sanders from South Carolina. Good size altogether, 6'3", 305. He's got good twitchiness, which, by the way, quick, fun drinking game. During the pre-draft process and just during the draft itself, every time an analyst or someone on screen says twitchy, take a drink, and you're going to be shithouse, because that is my biggest gripe when people just use the word twitchy as a blanket to cover everyone. Not everyone can be twitchy. So people call him twitchy. I'm not. You might be, though. 2-year starter at South Carolina. He was a rotational guy. When he was on the field, there were a lot of good plays, but he only averaged 36 snaps on defense. If you're finding someone in round 2, I think the expectation should be they've got a larger role on the field for you. So I think Sanders is more like a round 3, possibly round 4 candidate, which the Falcons don't have a 3rd-round pick. They do have a 4th-round pick, so maybe this is more of a early day 3 target of theirs to try and replace or make a stab at replacing Grady Jarrett. Grady Jarrett was not a 1st or 2nd-round draft pick, so you could find quality guys later on, but when you look at Atlanta's defensive line, there's going to be a lot of youth involved now. Rook, Zach Harrison. You brought back some vets, Onyemata. You signed Morgan Fox, re-signed Kentavious Street, but it's going to be tough to fill the void of Jarrett. And I think Rook is the current man for the job. He was taken in the 2nd round last year. He's the obvious in-house candidate to replace him, but don't sleep on Fox as well. They signed him from the Chargers. He's done that role for a long time with a better pass rush to his game. But Rook, I think, is where they likely want to start first, since they used such a premium pick on him, top 40 last year's draft. All right, before we sign off, we do have to, I've been a little bad about this, pick a random viewer from the comment section of yesterday's video and give a quick shout out to. So, Reed, let's spin that wheel. 2 claps going to, looking good for King 7. Never mind, no, it's not. It is Robert Smith, I think it is. Yeah, Robert, thank you so much for commenting. 2 claps for you, buddy. 1, 2. See you all later.